Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. To meet the demands of a sports world changed forever by the COVID-19 pandemic, a team of leading sports industry executives have launched NextUp Ventures and NextUp Partners. Joining me to discuss is Joe Flores, Derrick Heggans, Craig Heisner, and Sabrina Jenkins to discuss. It's great to have you guys with us. Welcome to Trade Talks. And we'll go around the horn here, get a brief background on your areas of expertise. And we'll start with you, Joe.
Sure. Thanks so much for having us, Jill. Really appreciate the time. Joe Flores, almost 2 decades in public relations on the consumer side. Expertise in sports and entertainment. Recently came to NextUp from MWWPR, mid-size independent PR firm based out of Manhattan. I ran their sports and entertainment practice. We had 9 clients, and when COVID hit, it kind of hit all of us. Prior to that, I was at Endeavor, WME IMG. Was fortunate to work on enormous brands like Microsoft, where I helped bring Surface to the sidelines for the first time from a communication standpoint. I worked on Dick's Sporting Goods and kind of helped navigate them through everything they're doing philanthropically and also with firearms. And then prior to that, I was at Taylor, where I cut my teeth and got started in this crazy sports world.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Derrick.
Jill, thanks so much for having us. This is terrific to have this discussion today. You know, my background is one of those that, unlike the other, sort of doesn't fit. It's a little bit of everything. So in my prior life, I worked as a lawyer. I spent a lot of time working at the NFL in the league office. I was the chief legal and business affairs officer for Super Bowl and all of the NFL events, Pro Bowl and the international series. I handled broadcast policy responsibilities as well as transactions, so domestic and international broadcast deals and the like, as well as sponsorship, consumer products, and pretty much everything on the business side. I also ran AOL Sports for a period of time. So from I guess it's a management standpoint on the media side, that's another one of my specialties, as well as strategy. I've also worked on from the agency side at Octagon, and so from a client management standpoint, both on the brand side as well as athletes. So I get a chance to have touched all those bases.
Thank you, Derrick. And Craig?
Jill, thanks so much for having us. My career has been spent on the brand side, primarily in athletic footwear and apparel. I've been fortunate enough to work with some awesome brands like New Balance athletic shoe, Reebok. I was the head of marketing for a smaller brand called Brooks Sports out in Seattle. I worked on the US launch of the Li Ning brand, Beijing-based company here in the States. And most recently was the president and chief revenue officer for a smaller brand based in Boulder, Colorado called Newton Running. In addition to the work on the brand side, which basically includes everything from product marketing, design, development of product, certainly sourcing operations overseas, as well as domestic manufacturing in the case of New Balance. Working with athletes, my work, the business units that I've worked on primarily have been in running, track and field. Needless to say, the postponement of the Olympics is impacting the business, certainly. And I've also worked on the Chicago 2016, I was a part of the Chicago 2016 Olympic bid, which unfortunately we lost out on, but amazing experience, and have since been doing consulting work with a number of brands, including the Hanes brands, Champion division, Lululemon, Converse, and others. So thrilled to have a chance to chat today.
All right, Craig, thanks so much. And Sabrina?
Thanks, Jill, so much for having us. Yes, I am Sabrina Jenkins. My background is in baseball. I spent 27 years with the Atlanta Braves. Did a lot of different areas within their areas of business. I started out in ticket sales, did a little marketing and advertising, and spent the last 18 years of my career there in special events. So executing all of their live events from concerts to festivals. And so that is my expertise in wheelhouse, negotiating contracts, and just doing all the fun, different events that happen at the stadium. This past January, I launched my own company, SJL26 Event Productions, and so excited to be a part of NextUp Partners. It's going to be a fun, exciting time, I think, for all of us, and just really looking forward to doing business and going after some really big, cool events for everyone. So thanks for having us.
You got it. And I will have to say that this group probably has the coolest background out of the thousands of interviews that I've done for NASDAQ Trade Talk. So let's keep it in the same order. We'll keep it simple. Joe, Derrick, Craig, Sabrina, you could just go one right after the other. What are your thoughts on how COVID-19 has impacted sports and the associated industries?
Yeah, so for me, I think COVID's been the great equalizer. There was never a time that I can think back to where, all sports were dark, and it was a challenging time for all of us when the NBA went down. And obviously, I never thought there'd be a year where we didn't have March Madness. But we look back and we reflect, but also, I'm proud of the talented professionals across the various leagues and teams. Very encouraged about what they did and worked tirelessly to handle their situations in a different way. There's no silver bullet on how to bring sports back, but it's coming back in some capacity. And I think fans are really excited, but a lot of people worked really hard. And my observation is, I knew a lot went behind the scenes, and there are a lot of different scenarios from bubbles to Canada and the NHL and whatnot. But, seeing sports back on television and in streaming is really exciting to me. And I'm encouraged by all the hard work everyone did to put in to make it happen.
Jill, my thoughts are twofold. One, certainly you never want to see what has happened in 2020 actually take place. But at the same time, when something so dramatic as a pandemic happens, we see tremendous innovation come out of that time period.
Yeah.
And so innovation is forced, essentially. And so I'm excited about the future of new elements that we'll see. Now, the second component of my comments come from someone who's both spent a significant amount of time in traditional sport experience, again, with my background with the NFL, and from having, been part of hosting some of the biggest signature events, not only domestically, but globally. At the same time, I've worked at the cutting edge of new media. And so I'm excited by what I'm seeing in the space from a new media perspective that may not necessarily depend on day-to-day physical sports output. And there's an exciting future there as to how we consume different content in the sports and entertainment space that way.
And I will say, I sort of look at it from how it's impacted the behaviors of active lifestyle consumers. And, one of the things that I'm sure many of you are aware of that's just been fascinating, and certainly was happening prior to this global pandemic, was the trend at home fitness and connected fitness. And, if you look at I ride a Peloton bike, it's right over there. And, I love it. The platform is amazing. I'm sure you guys have all seen some of the new stuff and innovation that's happening, as Derrick has mentioned. But what's going on with Mirror and Tonal, even, of course, the recent announcement of the Apple Plus platform, which they intend to start to push content and subscription services around that. I'm just fascinated with it. I think, people continue to adapt and find ways to realize the benefits, both physically and emotionally, of living an active lifestyle. And of course, that's the perspective that I take, because I look at it from the standpoint of equipment that, again, supports those folks. So it's exciting. Obviously it's not the way we wanted to get there, but there's some really interesting stuff happening as people evolve and find ways to work around it.
Yeah, and same for me. With event productions, obviously having to pivot to virtual events. And bringing that new, it's not new, but it's being used a lot more now, for whether it's large events or small events within the industry. Everyone has had to pivot to that and just be creative and innovative, and it's not going anywhere. So now we can just do hybrid events. So I've even just being able to add that to my platform, and within my company, I had to go and rebuild another page on my website for virtual events to be able to market that. So, it has created an area of new business and growth. And I think that within the sports world, it will continue to evolve from there.
I would agree with all of you, and I think the silver lining of the COVID-19 pandemic certainly is innovation in the technology that brought us there. And then from the fan perspective, of course, it democratizes access to the athletes and entertainers that we never would have had before. In fact, the five of us on here today, for all five of us typically have traveled. For us to have gotten to the Market Site studio in Times Square, same day, same schedule, same time slot would have been a really big lift, but now we're able to do it quicker, and it's easier to bring people together. So I think the innovation behind that and the democratization behind access really is an exciting thing to come out of that. So Craig, what is the NextUp Partners Consortium designed to do? What does it offer? How do you work with the companies you partner with?
So my focus is really on the more on the partner side, and there's a few benefits I think that we provide. First off, a lot of times in consulting practices, and I've been asked to come in and sort of offer recommendations, and then you step aside and you rely on the existing teams to execute. We do the work. So in the absence of or with some of the uncertainty around companies to carry large overheads, we can come in as fractional executives, obviously do the evaluation, get close to the teams, but then work side by side and actually deliver on some of the recommendations and work and insight that we bring to it. I think, additionally, if you look at the team, it's incredibly diverse. So we have end-to-end solutions and tremendous complementary skill sets. Again, for me, my background has been primarily built around the product marketing, product design, product development, sourcing, as well as brand strategy. As I go out and pitch business, I have the ability to pull from this roster of folks that have functional expertise in areas that I otherwise would have no idea how to operate within. So again, end-to-end deliverable. We work alongside people and just tremendous diversity of skills. This is a really, really all-star cast of folks. Great people, and it's coming together, and we're doing some great work together. So those deliverables, I think, make a big difference.
Yeah, and Joe, how is NextUp Partners a differentiator in the marketplace with the model it's currently offering? What makes it new, so unique?
Yeah, great question. We know the traditional agency or consultancy model just doesn't fit the environment of today, and we all have been forced to pivot. And potential clients, sadly, some of them have been forced to downsize or furlough, and they've got budget constraints. And for us, we are nimble, we're flexible. As Craig indicated, the opportunity to provide fractional executives and give them the right resource model and the right solutions with very little overhead. I think that's what folks are looking for right now. Gone are the days when we're able to live under sizable retainers, with 60-day out clauses and the like. So, we have client partners, whether they're established brands, emerging brands, or startups that are looking for solutions with limited resources, and we're willing to work with those folks and take them on as clients and help them launch or preserve or grow their business.
So let's dive deeper into all that. Sabrina, I'm going to start with you. What does each one of you bring to the table?
I think that's the beauty of it all. Just like these guys were saying, the team is so diverse. I bring the live events, contract negotiating for large venues. We've got Derrick and Joe and Craig. Everyone has all these set skills that we've used over 20 plus years of our careers, and to be able to bring it all under one umbrella, under NextUp Partners, and be able to work with so many great dynamic people with wonderful backgrounds within the sports industry and the agency industry, and bringing all those skill sets together to go after major contracts. It will allow for these small startups or the brands that have been established for all these years. With all the cuts that are going on, I mean, people are cutting, people are being laid off of these companies left and right. And so they're not going to have those same skill sets within their organizations. So to be able to pull from our pool of proven executives to get the job done possibly at a lower rate for those organizations is going to benefit them in the future.
You know, Jill, can I just jump in
Of course.
for a sec? I think what we see is really smart people with great ideas. And what ends up happening invariably when they're either early revenue or pre-revenue is they just don't know how to move on things. They don't know how to define they're not as comfortable with taking their unique point of view and actually executing it into a commercial endeavor. And I think that's where, in many cases, we can help with the nudge. And sometimes it's putting creative in place. It's launching a site. It's helping to commercialize product or ultimately launch them. But just helping to nudge some of these folks along, I think, is what we can provide across all the different skill sets of the team.
Yeah, I would imagine, particularly with Derrick's expertise, only so many people have the legal background within the sports and entertainment space. So I would imagine, Derrick, that's a valuable vertical that newer startups are certainly going to need from a business perspective as well.
Jill, I'd say this, we're talking about, certainly right now in a challenging economy where a model like NextUp Partners works. I think it works in any economy, quite frankly. But in particular, as we sit here today and we talk about innovation and we talk about new companies coming to market with new solutions that may not have a budget to ramp up in a big way. So to have the opportunity to have experts at every particular stop of whatever you need as a solution available to you is something that's unique. Anyone that's worked in agency world knows that traditionally you may have a senior executive that may be responsible for bringing the business and working with the client, and you'll have a lot of junior people. Well, here we have, Craig mentioned it's an all-star cast across the board. And while I know I've worked with some really talented people at some of the places that I've worked, I certainly don't think that I can say that I've worked with this level of talent in every position, if we were to use our sports analogy across the board. So yeah, it's exciting to have. I would love to say someone with my own background. Everyone has been recognized with awards, whether or not like myself, the Sports Business Journal 40 under 40 or other similar awards, but people that have been unique, shall we say, in their space. There are not a lot of people with my background that have worked on the Super Bowl at the level that I have for a number of years, the biggest single day sporting event in the United States, or run major properties, and all of us have done something of that equivalent. And it's exciting for us to work with them, but for partners to have access to us without the price tag, quite frankly, of a more expensive agency is really the opportunity.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Derrick hit the nail on the head. You surround yourself with great people who've done great things, and great things will happen. Greatness will happen. I've been, since day one, just incredibly blessed to work side by side with these talented individuals, opening the network. I mean, there are some folks, unfortunately, that are going through this and are displaced in the sports and entertainment world, for no fault, no reason of their own. But, I find comfort and solidarity. I find growing networks, and we're all going to look back on what we did during this time. And we banded together, and I think we've created something pretty special and very unique in the marketplace. And that's, normally if there wasn't a pandemic, we would be senior executives at other firms or other brands.
Again, a traditional background in actual physical live events. We're eventually going to be back there, and we'll be back there in a big way. Sports, entertainment, music are the areas that cross culture. They cross all boundaries. And so when we have the opportunity to host those, we will have them. I think what we have is, with the growth in technology, is we will see ways for more people to be able to engage more deeply in more interesting ways than we've ever seen before globally. And that's what I'm really excited about.
All right. And Sabrina.
Yeah, it's just really kind of expanded the stadiums that you sit in to go to live events. The technology part will just grow those events. I think about it for me with my church. they're outside of the church walls now. And so our church is even growing because of the technology. So the same thing will happen with the sports as well. So.
If I
Yeah,
could jump
that's certainly exciting. Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we always expected there to be an evolution in sports, given the proliferation of streaming and other opportunities to see more live sports. I think, you know, when the pandemic first hit, I never watched more international soccer because it was the only thing on in MLS than I did throughout the month of March and April. So, you know, I think you combine that with the proliferation of sports betting as well, and people are at home and looking for ways to interface with sports and enjoy it in a different way. And you know, fantasy sports certainly gave you that first kind of entree into that. But when sports betting, we're really just the tip of the iceberg right now. When that becomes legal and gains critical mass, you're going to see folks in live in-game betting and having a vested interest. And when you talk about a second screen or a third screen, or even maybe a native screening experience with sports betting, I see that being, you know, the future of how folks they have a vested interest and they're passionate about sports, they're passionate about their teams. But they have no problem, you know, watching a Browns and Bengals game on a Thursday night if their fantasy team's playing. And, you know, if they got a few bucks in the over-under on top of it, you know, you're going to see more people in and more people excited about it.
Yeah, I, for one, am happy that football has come back because fantasy football, I mean, that's the whole thing about it. And I am want to get first place in my league for sure. So, Craig, we'll give you the final thoughts on this before we wrap.
Well, I'm just going to admit here live that I've actually watched cornhole on television, but we'll leave that at that.
Cornhole championships.
Yeah, but you know, here's what I would say. I mean, obviously, I referenced connected fitness and what's going on with at-home fitness. People, you know, living an active lifestyle and staying healthy is it's for between the ears more than anything, and it's not, you know, it's very, very important for folks. So obviously, my perspective is not as much with sports marketing and being in the stadiums and the leagues and so forth. It's really about active lifestyle behaviors. It's not going away. And I'll just leave with one final metric. You know, one of the things that we see just literally over the past spring and through the summer months has been the participation rates of people who run. And, you know, all you have to do to run is you put some shoes on and you go outside, and it is way up. Now, granted, the opportunities to purchase are, you know, shifting more towards direct to consumer, which they were anyway. But, you know, participation rates around sports are going to continue, I think, to grow, and people are going to find ways to get out there and live their lives. So it's not, again, it's not how we wanted to get there, but it's not going to go away. We're not going to be relegated to the couch.
All right. Fantastic conversation. Thanks so much for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You got it. And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.